And today we're talking about Oregon property taxes. I could talk about Oregon property taxes forever, but I don't know how you feel about hearing all about it, but there's a ton to know. So, first off, Oregon property taxes are paid, well, they run the fiscal year, which means that they start July 1st and they go to June 30th. Now, the thing that's confusing is that they're paid in October. So, in October, you pay back to July 1st and then forward to the next end of June. So, if that makes sense, you're paying in the middle of the year, and so you're paying in arrears and then in the future. A lot of people don't understand that. And you can imagine if you're refinancing or if you're purchasing new, that can really mess you up, because if it's somewhere in October, you're going to have an entire year's worth of property taxes due. And then secondly, how the heck do we get to the assessed value? It's honestly a bit of a black box, so I don't even know. I've talked to tax assessors who don't even know, so it's very complicated. Suffice to say, we passed a bunch of laws in the 90s, actually 2 specific laws in the 90s that said, hey, you can't raise our property taxes more than 3% on our assessed value each year. Except, there's several exceptions for this. If I add square footage to my property, if I significantly improve it, so not like maintenance-y kind of things, but like, I don't know, say I went from a regular old roof to a fancy metal roof, that might be considered an improvement. Or I went from a 1970s kitchen to like a brand new top of the line modern kitchen. That might also increase your property taxes. But what they base that on mostly is you pulling permits, which ironically has caused a totally different problem in our market, which is people often pull permits because they don't want their property taxes to go up. But that's a side note. In addition, so they capped property taxes in the 90s. So if I had a house that in 1992 was worth $120,000, it could only go up by 3% a year, and then you're taxed on that value. As you can imagine, that has put a very interesting spin on our market, because existing housing from the 90s, so anything built before 1998, property taxes are much lower. If you're buying something that's built in 2014 or 2020, you're bearing way more of the brunt of property taxes than your neighbor who might own a single family house that was built in 2000, or no, 1919, let's say. Which I find fascinating. You know, all those condominiums in the Pearl, their property taxes are significantly more than, say, on a $500,000 property in the Pearl, they might be $10,000, and a $500,000 property in Northeast Portland on a 1920 house might be $4,000. So it's pretty significant difference. But the big thing that you need to know as far as figuring out property taxes is they can't go up more than 3% a year if you're not doing anything crazy to your house. Unless, there's one more exception, you add square footage, you make significant improvements, or we pass a bond. So all those bonds that we pass that are like school bonds and library bonds, those are tied to property taxes. So something to think about when you read it, and it's like 3 cents for every $1,000 of assessed value. Now you know what that is. And you should be able to find your property tax bill pretty easily. You can look it up on the county website. Multnomah County is super easy and accessible, so is Washington County. It gets a little bit harder with Tillamook, but there are easy people to contact for all of those. Anyways, as you can imagine, property taxes are quite a complicated issue. So of course, if you have any questions, reach out, especially in October. That's often when I get questions and calls about like, oh my gosh, is this bill something I have to pay? That's the final advice I'm going to leave for you. In most counties, if it's yellow, you don't have to pay anything. If it's green, you are going to have to pay the property taxes. So anyways, stay tuned. I'll be here, same place, same time next week, answering all your real estate questions. And of course, if you have anything else that you're wanting to hear about, just comment below. I would be happy to address it in a future Dear Claire. And then if you're dying for more Dear Claires or more content, we have all kinds of information on our YouTube channel.